Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you again for another CUTE session for Microsoft Teams office hours with your host, Ricardo Wilkins, Microsoft Customer Success Manager. So glad to see you today. Before we jump, as we jump in, you'll see on the screen here, did want to point out next week's session will be something you definitely want to try to tune in for. We'll be talking about the topic of meeting fatigue next week, May 21st. And we'll have as our guests some of our what we call meetings rangers, folks really dedicated to this concept of the meetings and teams. And so I just think it's a timely topic. I was glad they were able to make it next week for our this regular session, but I think it's a timely topic. This concept of meeting fatigue, I suspect anybody watching this right now will agree. We're in a lot of meetings these days, so you don't want to miss next week, 5/21. But other than that, we're here today to chat it up, geek out about Teams, and so use your Q&A as you need to put any questions you may have that we can just answer today. And while we wait for any questions, this week I was thinking I had come across some content about this concept of working out loud, which I've talked about a lot with customers as well. And I thought that might be worth talking about and showing some specific examples in Teams of what that looks like. That might be a foreign concept to some. And so in general, what I'm showing right now is an article from 2013, really. It's an old article. So this concept's been around for a while. But this idea of working out loud, basically working, let's call it transparently, or working in a way unlike that siloed, hey, I'll do what I need to do and no one needs to kind of know what I'm doing. Instead, let's work in a way where people can see what I'm doing. They can help engage. The whole team is, involved and aware of the work being done would be one way to describe that. And why is that potentially a good thing is just, increases collaboration. So if that's a goal of you and your team, better collaboration and working out loud is arguably a way to help get there. So in this, old article, I think even as you can see, it's a Yammer. It's actually focused on, or from the Yammer team, I should say, and it's 8 years old now or something like that, if my math's right. But they talk about some of the benefits of teams being able to make better decisions, to be able to increase engagement, and be more adaptable. I do like this section though about some of the myths, right? These myths about either the benefit or me working out loud. What does that mean? Is that a good or bad thing? So one, if I work that way, too many people get involved and it slows me down. The stuff I'm doing isn't relevant to other people. Why should I kind of put it out there? I don't want to create more noise for the other people on my team. And then I've been hired to do this job. Other people should only do their own job. So, I think I've heard all of these or some form of these, over time. But I kind of agree with the article that, those are myths, really. And it's worth giving this work out loud concept a try before you kind of fall into those myths, I think. So thought I'd show just a few examples of, in Teams of how this work out loud concept could work. Because certainly Teams is, inherently meant to be a collaborative area. And I think much of its functionality truly supports that work out loud concept. But again, as I'm talking, continue to use the Q&A for any questions, whether it's on working out loud or anything else. Hopefully you're aware that Q&A can be any random question. If you just came here to hear about X, even if I'm not talking about X, put it in there, we'll talk about it. But if we were talking about working out loud in Teams, to me, the first most obvious, I won't say obvious, the first one that I think is the biggest contributor to The working out loud concept is just the idea of working within these channels. And so by definition, the channel is certainly a place to have activity on a certain topic. Like in this case here, this is the safety audit team. And among the things they do audit planning, right? Because, here's our audit planning channel. And what that means is I'm going to have conversations about audit planning, files about audit planning, and tabs about audit planning. But what maybe isn't as obvious is, I'm doing them, out loud, meaning any conversation I have here is able to be seen by the whole team, not just the audit planning folks, but everyone in safety audit. If I really wanted it to be just the audit planning folks, I could do a private channel. But in this case, I'm having audit planning conversations in front of the whole team, right? And, why is that, maybe like a new concept? I mean, but without something like Teams, you're having that conversation in email. And unless you're adding the whole team, I mean, it's certainly a lot easier to have an audit planning conversation in email just with a few people, right? Which, or the very specific people you want a response from or something like that. And so I wouldn't call that so much working out loud as this, where one key example here is, let's say, my friend Nestor, right? Here I am asking, Nestor something about audit planning, right? And if I go to my Nestor persona, I mean, he could reply, we could have this conversation here. So, as you can see, I'm talking to Nestor. I could certainly have emailed Nestor. I could certainly have private chatted or sent a, direct chat to Nestor, but I'm doing it here in the channel for audit planning. I'm doing that, one, because it's an audit planning kind of conversation, so it's a good fit for this channel. But two, in theory, I'm doing it to work out loud such that I'm talking to Nestor about this very confusing topic here, but the whole team can see it. If they also have a question about that for Nestor, if they have something to add, I didn't specifically ask for additional input from the team, but by having done it this way, I am allowing that additional engagement. That would not have been possible if I had sent Nestor an email directly. No one else on the planet knows about that conversation. They don't have a chance to engage unless we consciously bring them in by adding more people to that email. So it's almost like like if every email was you CC'd everyone on every email all the time, is almost like what this concept is, right? But hopefully that's kind of clear with this, and as you've been using Teams, hopefully you've seen the value of that, is that this channel here of conversations are out, open, work out loud kind of conversations that everyone can see, even if they only involve a few people in that moment. Okay, so that channel piece, right? If I had done it, I always make this distinction with customers too, right? The Teams area, everybody can see it. That chat area, I could go back to that email concept of just chatting with Nestor. No one would see anything about this until we start adding other people into the mix. So there's certainly, I'm not saying there's no place for, let's say, private or one-to-one chats or emails. But I guess I'm just saying I would agree with work out loud concept that there's a lot of opportunity for having these conversations out in the open. So much so to the point I would just encourage folks to consider doing that first, right? Our default typically is to talk directly to the person we got the question to. I think it'd be an interesting culture to shift that to say, is it possible this email I'm about to write or this thing I'm about to ask Nestor, could I just ask it in the public channel and potentially, invite some additional engagement and collaboration? So I think that's something to consider there. So the channel in and of itself is a work out loud, tool from my perspective. The channel, so that's a conversation, right? And that could have been one person, a few people, but again, the fact that it's open to all is key. The other way I've used channels to work out loud is with document collaboration. So the classic scenario we are all involved in is having a document that needs multiple people to work on it. So maybe somebody started it, but hey, I need everyone's input. Maybe everyone owns a slide, or maybe even needs to review it, or give feedback, or anything like that. Obviously, I could email that to the people who own the document, right? And then nobody outside of those people knows it. Even if I email and CC everyone, when we're talking documents here, that gets that could get a little interesting, just because now I got to make sure that document is in a collaborative place and not just attached, right? Because then I've got a whole new problem there. So let's get out of the email. Let's bring it here. Now, even in Teams, though, one thing I could do is I could come over here, as I say, it's an audit planning document. I could drop it in files, right? And then, so I feel like I've done my collaborative part there. I put it in a shared file space. But again, nobody knows it's there necessarily. Some folks might have some alerts on here, but in general, dropping a file in here is a silent process. And now I've got to go tell people it's there, and then ask for the revisions and show them where it is and all of that good stuff. So the other way, though, I could do this is to start up a new public conversation here, upload my document here in the post, which is the same thing as uploading it in the files area. So maybe I've got this PowerPoint that people need to work on. In this case, I've uploaded this doc before here, so kind of ignore this for this. Let's just replace. So let's assume this was a brand new doc, and then I can say, even if I were to say just Nestor, right? Or maybe I would, mention the whole team and say, please put your revisions here. And then I post that. So I've done several things with this approach. One, I've uploaded a file, which I needed to do. I've uploaded it to a public collaborative place, SharePoint Online. This document is not only visible, but editable by everyone in this team. And I've also made them aware of it. I mean, especially with this tag here, I mean, everyone's going to get an alert in their activity about me asking for revisions. And when they click it and come to this particular spot, one more click and they're right in the document ready to revise. So I didn't have to describe where it is or provide a link or anything like that. I've got all that done just with this post. But also then, if this had just been a message to Nestor, again, it's still a message that the entire team can see. The entire team, for instance, and this is one of those scenarios where the working out loud is tricky to some, or maybe not attractive to some, is that the whole team can come into this document that maybe me and Nestor are working on at any time and inspect it, see where we are in the process, see what it looks like. And that's the part that sometimes is uncomfortable for folks. Okay, yes, I know slide 2 isn't complete yet. I'm still working on it, or so this idea of people seeing things before it's perfect sometimes, I think, is a inhibitor to working out loud. I kind of say lean into it, right? At some point, the team, the culture gets to understand the working out loud concept and know that I might be looking at a document of someone else who has made it available, and it might not be finished, and so just because I posted it in the chat, in the channel, doesn't mean it's perfect and ready for you to give me tell me what's wrong with it, right? So that's a culture shift, and that people just have to, start to get used to. But aside from that, though, I can come in, see it, maybe this particular slide, even though nobody asked me, I've got an idea about, something that could be added here, a new picture that might look better. And so we got to all, be used to getting feedback. Some people might feel some kind of way about somebody, giving them some advice on the slide and I didn't ask you, right? But if we try to get in that work out loud culture, you would welcome that. Just kind of understand we're all on the same team, just trying to get things done. So So yes, people can jump in this document even if they weren't invited. They can see it. They could edit it, and that could potentially be a problem. I didn't ask you to edit this, yet you did. In theory, we're on the same team and we're all trying to get the same goals. That's maybe not necessarily a problem. I have seen that though occur where then you just rely on some of the cool features of the tool, right? I would go in here and look at it in SharePoint or even in the desktop app and check reversion history, right? So if you did make an edit, I'd know that you made the edit, and I could also roll it back if needed. Just trying to go back to let's just go to the desktop app. I think I've shown this in other sessions, but yeah, file, info, version history. So again, if you made an edit here, I could see it. If I go into SharePoint, I could even delete your edit if by chance you were maybe a little overzealous and that was an edit I didn't need. So it's not the worst thing in the world. It certainly can get hairy if a bunch of people are making edits and kind of could get out of control. But in general, all the same team will probably making edits that could be beneficial. So all that being said, this chat, where am I? This working in the channel concept, putting the documents there, asking for revisions, and all of that's managed here, including, what's nice is including any conversation about the work that we're doing, especially being able to say, done, and get all of those, dones here, all in one place, which is a nice little hint to others. Imagine seeing all your teammates saying done, 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 and realizing you haven't done your piece of it yet. So that's nice. But again, all of that being aggregated here, as opposed to maybe an email chain of conversations going back and forth on a document that's an attachment that it has, now 5-6 copies that somebody's got to bring together, that kind of thing. So yeah, so working out loud. I feel like I've talked about both the advantages, but also the challenges, right? If you got some overzealous folks chiming in, could be something to manage, but I think it'd be more times advantageous than troublesome. Another one that I've heard customers appreciate about Teams is, especially managers, is this concept that really this is like working out loud in this channel is kind of like CCing everyone all the time, as I kind of mentioned earlier, and particularly for managers who get CC'd all the time from a kind of a CYA perspective. Like I just want to make sure my manager is aware of this thing. If you think about it, the more you can use this channel concept, this working out loud concept, keeping your manager aware, if your manager's a part of that team, now is kind of it's happening by default, right? Because you are doing your activity in this open space where they can come and see it at any time. And then of course, maybe the, maybe to help that, just that mentioning your manager on a particular thing, simply just putting their name there, right? If that's my manager and I'm just putting, just mentioning her here, now that's an indicator for her to come and check out, what's going on there. And with that one click, imagine she can come and see the end result product here, can see all the conversations without reading them in reverse, like an email does, all with one click. So I've had a couple managers who have, seen their email decrease simply because instead of now being CC'd on every email thread, they're simply, their team just knows that they are a part of the work spaces where, that they need to keep track of. So there's not as much of a need to email and CC on everything. So that can be very useful. So again, working out loud. And then the other one we've talked about in these sessions too is just the channel meeting, right? As you can see here, this is a meeting in the channel. Again, that's working out loud because, like, if I look at this particular meeting, this team has a lot of people on it, but this kickoff meeting technically just has these 3 or let's say 4 people that are in quote unquote invited to it or added to it, but it's a meeting that is visible by the whole team, can be joined by anyone, and so again that's working out loud. So instead of a meeting nobody knows about except those 3 people, this is a meeting everyone knows about, and over time they can start to understand this is a meeting I can join if I want to, but or not, but at least I know it's happening. I can see chat if I'm interested. I can go look at the recording later, all those kind of things. So having it here versus having it in the inbox, it's just a little more open. And then at the end of the day, 6 months later, when you've worked this way, you realize this one spot is really, like self-documenting all the things you do, the conversations, the files, the meetings are all in one place suddenly. Very easy to either search for or just scroll through time to find out about things. And so then it starts to make more sense. Okay, this effort I've put into actively working out loud pays off when months later, when you realize how much stuff is right there at everyone's fingertips. So those are just a few concepts I thought about from a work out loud perspective. Hopefully you've heard that messaging before, and hopefully are trying to use it. I totally get that it is not necessarily a natural muscle for everyone. I've seen and heard that with customers often. Life and our jobs may have taught us to kind of do my work and don't show anybody your work until it's all perfect. So that may be your experience, but I would encourage you to give it a try. Again, especially if the goal is better collaboration among your team. I feel like my team does this pretty well, and it really makes it easy and useful to be able to find work, again, that no one specifically invited me to, but when it's time, when I have a question and I go into this search box and look amongst my team's work to see if anybody else has done that thing, and when I search and find something that got posted that nobody was thinking about Ricardo when they posted it, they were just trying to make everyone aware, that's just super useful in ways that some of our other tools just don't really allow. So again, working out loud, give it a try. Search for it online if you want to hear more about it, whether it's that article there, wherever that article is. Yeah, this article or many others. It's not a Microsoft concept per se. It's just teamwork in general. Okay. So I don't see any questions this week from the gallery per se, which is fine. So hopefully my conversation about working out loud was useful. As I said in the beginning, definitely show up next week. Have some special guests. We'll spend that whole time talking about this concept of meeting fatigue. I'm as much interested in next week as you are. So I want to hear what they have to say. So put it in your calendars, 11 a.m. Eastern on May 21st, meeting fatigue. Outside of that, we're pretty much at time. I can give you 4 minutes back. And so I hope you had a good session. I hope you have a great day and a great weekend. We'll see you next week.